Welcome to the last class we talk about for the Ungoro card valuation reveal stream video for the Lightforge Arena tier list.
Good, fun, Apple, happy time. So, we're talking about Rogue, the class that I think really, maybe not dominated, but certainly did very well in the 7.1 meta, right? And traditionally has been one of the top classes through its through its hero power, which is the best early game hero power in the game, to its plethora of removals, to its just overall flexibility. It's a class that offers a lot of power and offers a lot of choices, which infinite players always want. Now we have Ungoro coming out, and it's interesting because I think this is expected. Like, constructed rogues have asked for more tools or more weapons-based options for a long time, and I think I don't know if they're happy with it, but we've certainly got options now.
We got it. This is going to be the game-defining card when it comes to the one class card that you will hate the most, and it's not even the best card. It's only rated a 147. You go back to the Paladin and find two cards that are rated higher than that, and not just that one class.
Sure.
But this is the more annoying one. This is the one that you're going to remember.
Right. And as we said yesterday, how good a card is and how much it sort of shapes a meta or affects a meta, they're not necessarily a one-to-one correlation. Right. Yep. Now, if a card is really bad, obviously it won't affect the meta that much. But this card that we're talking about is really hugely impactful because of what it does and the class it does it for. So take it away.
Envenom Weapon. 3 mana, give your weapon poisonous. So it's a 5 mana assassinate where you take face damage, and then you get it again for whenever you wanted it.
Yeah.
And you can split the mana up too. You could play turn 2 dagger, turn 3 Envenom Weapon, hit something, right? You could break it up into pieces later on in the game. It hits flexible. And it's hard removal. And we're going to go into this again. Rogues have the most hard removal in the entire game by far. Warlocks come in second, but have half of Rogues' hard removal. And Mages are third with a third. And everyone else has just one hard removal, if that. And we are entering the meta of big dudes. And we are entering the meta of taunts. You're gonna need your hard removals, and no one has them, but the Rogue has them, and this card gives you 2. As if Rogue didn't have enough hard removals, they're getting a 2-for-1 with this card.
Right. So the score is 147, and you've seen we've rated quite a few cards higher than 147.
Yeah, even that Druid card that just gets you a card, that's rated higher.
Right. But this does something which is very helpful for the Rogue, and also offers a hard removal, basically 2 hard removals, right, for the Rogue. Quite powerful. So this is definitely something that, and how do you really play around this? You can't. This is something that you can't play around and will just end games sort of on the spot because they play this, and they can just save the weapon for however long they want. Yeah.
Yep. And in case you're wondering, I'm going to take so much damage if I hit big things, right? It's a taunt meta. You're going to have enough taunts. Taunt metas are very favorable to Rogue. And taunt metas are very favorable to Warlock. So there's a lot of good things happening here. Every class is kind of getting something, right? It's a taunt meta, so Rogues and Warlocks get favored. It's a beast meta, so you have something for Hunters and for Druids. Elementals are very specifically built with Mages and Shamans in mind. And so that's 6 of your classes.
Yeah.
And your only 3 classes left out in the cold are Priest, Paladin, and Warrior.
Yep.
And they gave Paladins the super ridiculous cards. So it's just Priest and Warrior. Those are your 2 classes kind of left out of the cold here.
Sad. It's all right. They're used to being left out in the cold.
True. So true. Okay. So that's a Venom Weapon. There's not much to say. You can just math it out in your head, right? It's 2 hard removals for 1.
Yep.
What more is there to say? Now, what's interesting is I do want to point out that it's not rated that high, and we also don't rate Blast Crystal Potion that high for different reasons. But just because it's a really good hard removal doesn't mean you want to take it over other cards. Sap is rated higher because it's still a rogue. You still need tempo. Sap still buys you so much more tempo, and Venom Weapon is still 5 mana. Like, you can't get away from the fact that it's 5 mana to kill one big thing, and the second thing you kill is not going to be that big. Because they're just not going to play big things into this. They can't be that stupid. Like, they will play, like, mid-sized things and small things. So, your next hit, yes, it is an assassinate, but you're not actually going to assassinate a proper target. You're going to assassinate, like, a 4/4 and be happy with it.
Yep. So, look, it's still a very good card, and because in a big meta, and like you said, having hard removals is really good. Having 2 hard removals in 1 card is just ridiculous. So, yeah. Next card, we have Hallucination. 125 on the tier list. Hallucination is a 1 mana spell. Discover a card from your opponent's class. It's just a good card. Discover, as we've established, is an extremely flexible and good mechanic. The later you can push Discover, which is basically drafting, right? The later you can draft the better decision you can make based on your hand, the board state, what your opponent is doing, and you're getting class cards.
Yep.
So class cards are always
Class
better.
cards are good.
Right. So this is basically you paying 1 mana to delay sort of drafting a card and drafting on average a better card. Very good.
All right, next card is Mimic Pod. Draw a card, then add a copy of it to your hand. This is Arcane Intellect. It's the rogue's version of drawing. It just doubles up on stuff. You have, like, Thistle Tea and stuff like that. But hey, you know what this doesn't do? It doesn't penalize you an extra mana for no good reason.
Yeah.
Which is what Thistle Tea did. So, hey, it's fine. It's 114. It's the same as Arcane Intellect.
Yep. Next, we have a weapon. Because, weapons are always good. 4 mana for a 3/3 weapon, Obsidian Shard. It costs 1 less for each card you've played from another class.
You're going to play... Yeah. You get cards from other classes.
Oh, definitely. Yep, you're rogue. You steal some stuff. And look, Swashbuckler still exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Swashbuckler still exists. You have Hallucination now. You have Burgle still. I think you still have Burgle.
You don't have Burgle.
Right? You don't have Burgle. Oh, that makes me sad. No more Burgle. But you do have ways to take cards from your opponent. And even if it's a 4 mana 3/3 weapon,
it's pretty much an Assassin's Blade for 1 less mana to start.
Right. It's still okay. And I think, you're not unhappy taking it. And if it's a 3 mana 3/3, it's really good, right?
Yeah.
Like really, really good.
The thing with these kinds of weapons is the closer the mana is to the damage the weapon deals, the better your weapon is. Like, you want to wonder why, like, Assassin's Blade is not, like, ridiculous because it's 5 mana for, like, 12 damage, right? It's because there's a huge disconnect in there. But with this guy, they play a 3/3. What do? You can just Obsidian Shard on turn 4 and hit it.
Right.
And then you still got 6 damage left to distribute however you want. It's not the best play, but it's fine. Like, it's a pretty good backup play.
Right. The thing with weapons, and yeah, like Adricta's point, I think is the most important. It's about how relevant that damage is on the turn that you can play it, right? Like 3 damage is going to be a lot more relevant on turn 4 than on turn 5, just, on average. So like it makes a huge difference because if you're able to clear on that turn, like you don't want to double hit into something. That's terrible. You're taking way too much damage. And if you can discount this to 3 and then use that, it's amazing.
All right, now we're gonna get into these cards that have this rogue mechanic. This is so weird. They just gave rogue its own mechanic for Ungoro, and it it's a constructed thing, I'm guessing, but it kind of just sucks. So that's what these last 2 cards are.
Weird.
The first card is a Razor Petal Lasher. It's a 2 mana 2/2, which we understand is not terrible now anymore, right? Because we have all these 2 mana 2/2s rated pretty high. And it has a Battle Cry, which adds a Razor Petal to your hand that deals 1 damage. So it gives you a card in your hand. It's not a great card. It's 1 mana, 1 damage. But, that's a real card, right? That's like a Frost Shock, it does stuff. And you're happy to have it. And so it's okay. Like,
Yep.
you're not just playing a 2-mana 2/2. You're getting something out of it, and it's a combo trigger.
It's a combo trigger, which you're fine with as a rogue. So this comes in at a 102 on the tier list. And finally, we have Razor Petal Volley at 51. So this is unfortunately pretty bad. It's a spell, 2-mana spell, and it adds 2 Razor Petals to your hand that deal 1 damage.
So it's 4 mana for 2 damage.
Yeah.
It's a spell thing. I think you're supposed to play with Gadgetzan. I don't know.
Right.
Like, it's a combo card.
Edwin, right? Like, you play it with Edwin. You play it with your questing adventurers. Like it's one of those things.
When a card has initiative and is rated a 51, which is like, Backstreet Leper levels of bad, there's something wrong with the card.
Yeah.
Because initiative is usually very good. But not this one.
Yep. Look, I can see how this thing has... I'm not a constructed player, but, you can use this to help you in a constructed deck. But in the arena, it is terrible.
So slow.
Yeah. Anyways.
So that's your rogue set. You got some options there, and then we'll look at the epics. This is a really great first epic to have. It is 178 points.
178.
It's not a meteor, but it's hitting the paladin levels of goodness here. And that is because this is a stupid card to ever exist.
I can't believe they printed this
I don't know why this exists. What are you thinking?
It really don't.
A 5-mana 3/4 combo, destroy a minion. You know what card is like ridiculously good?
Kidnapper.
And you know what Kidnapper? It's a 129, by the way, Kidnapper. It's a 6-mana 5/3, which is not that much better than a 3/4, but it costs 1 more mana and it saps the thing. This one like kills it. The difference between Assassinate and a Sap is 3 mana. The difference between a Vilefin Slayer and Kidnapper is reverse 1 mana. Is negative 1 mana.
This is...
I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what's happening here. Does it break the game? It doesn't break the game. It's just an insanely high, value card. Because Kidnapper is really good. Kidnapper was never breaking the game. And Kidnapper, in fact,
Kidnapper was never this good, though.
Yeah, but Kidnapper was also so divisive because it used to be a trash tier card, right? Like, until we figured out you actually just win games with it and who cares what cards they have. But yeah, Vilespine Slayer, it exists. And it just adds to the idea that rogues have all these hard removals. And no one else does. Rogue is just hoarding all the hard removals.
I can't believe they put a body with this, and oh my gosh. I don't know. I really don't. Yeah. And the only thing holding this back is it is an awkward combo trigger, right? Like, so if you guys remember playing like Shadowpan, like with Shadowpan, sometimes you find it really awkward to get to combo it out, and you're gonna have those situations with the Vilespine Slayer as well. But when you get it off, it is just like the best card ever.
The best card. So, okay, that's that. And your next card, what's a Biteweed?
What is a Biteweed? That is a good question. Biteweed is coming in at a 90 on the tier list. It is a 2-mana 1/1 that has combo. Gain +1/+1 for each other card you've played this turn. So look, they're trying to do sort of like the mini Edwin Van Cleef thing.
Especially with all those Razor Petals for 1 mana, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so look, look, it's not undraftable, but you don't want to be drafting this card. That's why it's a 90. You can certainly have this become something bigger. Definitely not a turn 2 play. And later on, you can play like a 2-mana 3/3, yay.
Yep.
Mana 4/4. Oh god, 4/4 is going to be really tough to get off.
No,
but
you have coins, right? You're a rogue.
Yeah. You have coins. You have petals.
Yeah, you have coins. You have petals. You have stuff.
You have stuff. So look, it's definitely possible, but obviously below average.
Yup. And finally, the legendary card for the rogue, and the last card we reveal the score of is Sherazin, Corpse Flower. 4 mana 5/3. Death Rattle, go dormant. Play 4 cards in a turn to revive this minion.
Yep. So when this thing dies, it still takes up a slot on your board. It just becomes like a pod, essentially. And then when you play 4 cards in a turn, it just pops back out as a 5/3. This is a 95 on the tier list, and basically we've accounted for the very, very slim chance that you can actually proc it, which is, it's not never, right?
It's not never. You can proc it, every few games.
I mean, by every few, and don't worry,
every few times that it comes out, you can proc it once.
Yeah.
The reason that it's not like total trash is that 5/3 for 4 mana is not that bad.
It's not terrible, right? Yeah, like it definitely trades down on some things, but whenever you play like a 3/5, which isn't that great, sometimes you don't want the 3/5 as well. Like I don't think, like between 3/5 and a 5/3, I'm like I'm kind of indifferent as like, yeah, 3/5 is better, but I don't think it's like that much better. So it's a 95. It's below average, and you will trigger the effect like once in a blue moon. So there you go.
And otherwise, it'll just make you sad because the corpse is on your freaking like battlefield the whole entire time.
Yeah. All right.
Oh,
So
Serial Coma has a good point. He says, "How does Dormant affect positioning for things like Meteor and Grievous Spite?"
oh man, it stopped. I think it stops it. I think it stops
What
it.
about positioning, huh?
Oh, dude, this thing is just like
Totally
dude,
not taken into account for its rating, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, anyways, so those are the rogue cards. Is rogue gonna play any differently in this meta?
I think your rogues are going to be a lot more aggressive because you have these hard removals, which means that the big things are all dying. And if the big things are all dying, that means the floodgates are going to open for you to hit your opponent's face. And you still have your small removals. That didn't go away. In fact, Jade Shuriken's still here. It's no longer super premium because the Jade thing isn't really a big thing anymore without the offering bonus. But hey, it's 2 mana, 2 damage, and you get a 1/1, Like, that's a fine card as it is. And so you can still remove small stuff, your eviscerates, your backstabs, or whatever. You have assassinate, you have sap, you have envenom weapon, you have kidnapper, you have the vilefin, whatever. You got stuff. You are going to knock down your opponents, and you're going to play aggro control to victory, and blow through all the taunts. Because the thing with aggro control is that it doesn't matter if your opponent plays a taunt. You are going to control that thing anyway. Like, you have all the answers to all their stuff. So anything that's a quality of the card, as long as it's not a battle cry, doesn't do anything to you.
Right. And definitely one of the things that favors aggro is a lot of the anti-aggro early tools that popular classes had in terms of AoEs, like Volcanic Potion or Potion of Madness, which is basically like the cheapest AoE, right? Those are not gone, but they don't. They definitely don't have the offering bonus to them.
Yep.
And this expansion, while we did get Grievous Bite, we didn't really get any early game AoEs or removals. So that definitely affects the way that you're going to play it and affects the way that you're going to be aggressive, right?
And just in case you're wondering, Rogue curves out as the second best curve out class.
Yeah.
It's got 2 1-drops. It's got 4.5 2-drops, 4 3-drops, 4 4-drops. You're not getting better than that unless you're a hunter. So rogues are pushing. Hunters are pushing hard. Mages can push and can play control and can probably do both at the same time with this elemental stuff, although their cards aren't very powerful. And paladins have to do this weird 1-drop thing where your 1-drop compensates for the fact that you're going to hero power on turn 2 a lot of the times, and then you're going to reestablish on 3 and try to blow your opponents out with 4 mana spells and build for the late game. It's weird. Like, I really don't have a good handle on where paladin is right now in this meta. That's probably the wild card. But let's end the rogue thing here, and I don't know. Do you want to do one more video and talk about the class rankings, or do you just want to add it on to the end of this?
Let's add it on to the end of
Okay,
this.
fine. Let's talk about class rankings. But before we do that, I just want to give a huge shout out to all our patrons. Our patrons at patreon.com/grinninggoat. If you've made it this far to the end of this video, please think of supporting us in our YouTube on Patreon. It's a monthly thing, and you can contribute as much as you want. Or if you're a Twitch sub, that's great. And if you're not a Twitch sub and watching this on Twitch, maybe consider subbing. We would really appreciate it. Also, if you're on YouTube, like, hit the sub button. That also means a lot. Doesn't cost you anything, and raises our numbers and our profile. And when sponsors come to us and do things like that, like, they actually look at this stuff. So, like, your subs and your follows and all of that actually, like, get us more attention from, just you showing on the internet that you like us. Share with your friends, send this to people who are really into the arena. I think we're kind of the go-to resource for this kind of in-depth stuff anyway, but always appreciate spreading the word. Yeah. I don't know, anything else you want to say?
Nope. Thank you to all our supporters out there, and just for those of you watching live right now, thanks for hanging out. All right, you heading into the classes?
Let's talk about the classes. So we have Hunter going to do really well, right? Rogue,
Yeah.
we think is number 1. Mage is fine where it is. These are all classes that curve out. Paladin's the wild card. I don't know what's happening to it. Because it was bad. It got really good cards, but they still sort of don't curve out, but they sort of do. I think they'll be okay, probably middle in this expansion. But, like, definitely Rogue, Hunter, and Mage are there at the very top. Then you get to the classes that don't quite curve out, right? Like Priest. I don't know what's happening to Priest. I think they're going to fall quite significantly because their new cards don't really build on the same thing that their old cards did. And all the super powerful cards are losing their off-rate bonus. So I think Priests are going to fall a bit to, like, mid to below average. Warlock, on the other hand, got some decently powerful cards, and I think they're going to be fine. They're going to keep their spot as, like, above average class. Druid is average, as usual, or slightly below average, whatever you want to say. Warrior is still at the very bottom. Nothing's going to change there. I don't think the weapons are enough to carry it out of the bottom. And Shamans are going to drop. I feel really bad about the Shamans, because they had worked themselves up to, like, a decent-ish position with, like, the Jade and all that, but they've lost their Jade synergies. And they haven't gotten terribly good cards. And the Elemental synergies are kind of iffy. Like, it's not adding up for me where the Shaman is right now in Ungoro.
Yeah. The way I see it, it's kind of interesting. So if Rogue is going to be, like, the top class, right? And if we say Hunter is going to be quite good as well, it makes this interesting dynamic, because if they are sort of seeing each other the most, like, really often, I don't know exactly how that impacts, like, how rogues or hunters draft, because it's a very interesting dynamic.
The rogue hunter dynamic is ridiculous, because rogues' main aggro control stuff on the small stuff destroys hunter, but then half of the control stuff doesn't do anything to hunter because they're all about big stuff.
Exactly.
And rogue is putting itself low just by trying to control the hunter.
Right. So what rogue actually does in the hunter matchup, it's at the beginning of the game, rogue will do stuff that the hunter doesn't want, which is push them off the board sooner.
Yes.
But by doing that, sometimes the rogue will have to take some damage as well, which means the hunter is basically forced to flip the switch earlier. And it's definitely really interesting, because if these are actually the two classes that are going to go up against each other, and the mirror match is whatever. Like, the mirror match is, it's just, if you're playing the same way, it's mostly about whoever drafts better and plays better, right? But if it is going to be dominated by the hunter versus rogue matchup, it'll really determine sort of, like, how they draft back and forth and how they play, right? But then how they, like, these two classes play will also shift how other classes react. And this is one of those things where, because of this, like, this is sort of how we envision the meta on like the first day or the first week. And then how it revolves around these two classes adapting will shape how other classes adapt around them. And I think, we could potentially see a very interesting shifting meta that will give us some surprises, just like how Hunter surprised us in 7.1, right?
Yeah.
Like Hunter definitely wasn't that surprising in MSG, like as long as you predicted that Warlock would be number one, right? If you predicted that Warlock would be number one, and you're just like, yeah, based on the way Warlock plays, Hunter is going to be really good. And we saw good arena players such as Victor take advantage of that and get to.
And it's the same deal. Like Rogue is at the top, Warlock's still very good. There's still a lot of Warlock players out there. Mage is going up high, but like Mage is pretty vulnerable to Hunter. And then there's going to be Paladin. Sorry, not Paladin. Those are your like top classes, like I think. So I would put Rogue as number one, and then followed by Hunter, Mage, Warlock in some order, and then Paladin, Druid in some order, Priest, Shaman in some order, and Warrior at the very bottom.
Yeah, one of the. I think one of the classes I will pick as my sleeper class, right? I think Shaman has a potential to be very high.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, part of the reason is if you look at sort of what have we gotten since 7.1? What is the new sort of threat coming from Ungoro, and what does Shaman have, and what did they gain, right? Well, look, if we're talking about big stuff, Shaman always has had a lot of damage, plus Hex, right?
Just one hard removal. And its damage isn't big damage. Its damage caps out at 5.
Sure, yeah. It's supplementary damage, right? They still have Stormforge Axe and Jade Claws.
Yes.
Like,
But Jade Claws is no longer terribly elite. Because there's no more, like, Super Jade synergies.
Right.
It's still good. It's still the second best card,
It's still really freaking good.
Yeah.
Kill snails. It can kill 2 snails, man.
Oh, the value.
The value killing 2 snails. But what I think it can do is, along with these sort of, small weapons, supplementary damage, the value that you can gain from these elementals, I think Shaman can be a real sleeper class. It's just hard for me to see exactly where it is because I think there's going to be a lot of shifting, right? And because, as we stated at the very beginning, oh my God, it's like 6.5 hours ago. Oh my God.
I told you it was going to go till 2 a.m.
As we stated 6.5 hours ago, Ungoro is like nothing we've ever seen before because we've never seen this power level, right? Ungoro by itself, even if we didn't have the stuff rotating out, would be the most impactful expansion we've seen because we are also removing these cards. You're amplifying the effects of Ungoro, and you're shifting around how classes play because a lot of classes are sort of missing key cards like Power Overwhelming or Gang Boss now. So there's just so many factors in play. I am actually usually I think we're extremely confident in our predictions, right? And I think I'm still fairly, we can say Rogue is going to be good. We can say Hunter is going to be good. I can't exactly say, okay, 4 weeks from launch, here is going to be the tier list, or even relatively the class tier list. I really don't know. I think we can have some major surprises in this expansion.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to be surprised. I'm really interested in what's like. It's interesting, right? Like this is fun. This is the best part, and Ungoro is really bringing it when it comes to the arena, and I think it's pushing it. I love Ungoro, and the whole the cards that were introduced. It's very down to earth. It's very skill based. It's very much on the board. There's no crazy random spells. Everything is very normal. It's very iterative. It brings skill back into the arena, which was desperately needed after 7.1. And if they then change some of the 7.1 rules to make it even more skill-based, then we could have a really good meta, right? Because MSG was the best meta agreed by every arena veteran and then 7.1 kind of shot that to hell for a bit. But it means the cards are there, right? The card pool is there. We have a good state for the arena, and now we have the tools to make it even better. And Blizzard's not quite doing it that way. They're using the tools to make it worse, but the tools are there now. So when things get figured out with this even better set coming in, I'm very excited.
All right. So I think that's it. We managed to give our preview of the Ungoro expansion along with our tier list reveal in a very tidy 6.5 hours. Fantastic. Thank you to everyone who've stuck around for this long, all like two crazy individuals.
Well, there's so many people who subbed in the last, because we pushed through the end over here. Because one of the mods messaged us the subs that we missed.
Yeah, I've got it. Yep, it's good. But do you want to have like a final goodbye to the video?
Oh, to the YouTube. We're still on YouTube. Hey, YouTube. Really, just enjoy Ungoro and hit the subscribe button. That's my message to the YouTube viewers.
All right. Anyways, thank you guys if you're watching this on YouTube. Have great runs. Get those 12s. Good luck to all of you guys.